I do a stage at the Hockley Hustle every year, and the first year I did it, we made a little promotional video for the stage where a few of the musicians went around, completely acoustic guitars, completely busking, just went into cafes and shops and said, can we do a song in here? And it was one song, it was just like a half-hour video, the first sort of film I made of this kind of thing. And we enjoyed it so much. It was a social thing as well. Everyone, all the venues that we sort of inflicted ourselves on were really helpful. You know, oh yeah, go in on a corner. Shops would move furniture, and people would find little corners for us. So it was great. And then we had such a good time. We all had lunch afterwards, and we went for drinks and all the rest of it, that we decided to keep doing it. So it was originally called the Random Saturday Sessions, where once a month we would meet up in a place. So we did one in Beeston, one in West Bridgford, one in Hucknall. I've actually been to York and done one as well, with some musicians up there that I got in touch with. We meet up on Saturday about maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in a cafe or whatever. There'd be a load of us, I'd have my camera, they'd all have guitars, and then we'd just set off and decide where we were going. And the public loved it as well. People would be quite good with that. It got a little bit more difficult to manage because I couldn't get new people in. I couldn't really explain the concept to newer people, so we ended up getting the same musicians following the whole, you know, like it became almost like a tour in review. The last one we did was May last year, and we had a really nice day out in the sun. We did beer gardens, and that was good because we didn't have to ask a lot of permission because we just did it in the street and in beer gardens. I kind of rested it for a while, and then a couple of people got in touch, are you doing it again? And I just used rooms, at people's convenience. So I was originally using the basement at Lord Roberts in Hockley, and then I found the recommended I try here in this room here at the Hop Merchant. They've been really supportive of it, and really, I do want to start doing that whole meet up and go out on an impromptu tour thing again, but because it was called the Random Sessions to start with, or the Random Saturday Sessions to start with, I thought I might as well just keep that as the brand, rather than setting up something else and finding something else and having to set up another Facebook page. I dropped the word Saturday from it, and it is still that same ethos of there's no plugging in. The musician literally just turns up with an instrument. There's no amp, no mic. The only microphone obviously is the one on my video camera. And it sounds great, and it gives musicians chance to sort of perform completely raw as well, and to see if they're up for that challenge and all that sort of thing. And I've had a few established musicians do it. I mean, Cameron Sinclair Harris has done one. Since we've done it up here, Miss Kills and Bill Kerry and people like that who are quite well established. But then I'm meeting people who maybe have only been going a few months on the open mics, and they're doing it. And I've formatted it more like a regular sort of, almost like a TV show area, where it's 3 originals and 1 cover, to keep it as a format. Some people don't want to do that. Some people might change it slightly, but the main thing is 3 originals, 1 cover, which is entirely their choice as well. So it's always interesting to see what they choose to cover. It's always interesting to see, you know, their personality come through and all that sort of thing. Rather than doing it in like a radio studio or something where they've got as much help as possible, it is nice just to watch them doing it in this raw state, you know. Well, like I said, I'm enjoying this. This is my only sort of involvement with local music now. Now that I'm not doing the radio and things like that, but it is interesting because I'm meeting newer people. It's more interesting than going to the same gigs every time and seeing the same bands, the same audience that aren't really that interested. They just want to be seen to be at the trendy place. And don't get me wrong, I do like going to, like Jam Cafe is always a good venue and things like that, but you do see the same people in there talking all the way through. I tend to go to a lot more off-radar gigs now, rather than going to what? I just don't go to recommended things. I go to things that look more interesting than off the mainstream. It was unfair of me to pick on Jam Cafe because they're great, but that circuit of this person's appearing here again, and like I said, now I go to things like the Kimberley Sessions once a month, which is a lot less inclusive. The guy who organised it, Bainey, he just wanted to bring musicians to Kimberley, and he does this thing once a month. And then there's also a festival once a year, the Kimberley Jam, which is all the pubs and shop doorways and things, which I was involved in this year. But I go to things like that because, again, I find new people there, and a few of the people I filmed here are as a result of me going to that and talking to them and saying, oh, I've got to do one of these videos with you and all that sort of thing. It's once to get out of the open mic circuit and into being booked and still not getting paid that annoys me. There's a few promoters in Nottingham now that rely on their reputation to and make out that they're... But even the likes of Rescue Rooms or Rock City, well, they used to have local acts supporting really big names and not pay them because, and it's that fucking word exposure. Say, for example, you're playing to fans of, I don't know, Gary Newman or, you know, whoever at Rock City, Wonder Stuff or something at Rock City. You're only exposing yourself to people who are only interested in the headline act. And a lot of the time, while the support band are on, everyone's still coming in at the bar or outside smoking. So who's this you know, it's not full of A&R men at 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, and it's not full of all that sort of thing. So this exposure thing is a myth. I would pay people. And a big business, if you're a big venue, you can afford to pay people. If you're a big promoter, you can afford to, you can negotiate with the venue and say, right, even if everybody only gets 20 quid or something like that, it's still covering their... If people think a musician has only done half hour's work because they've done a half hour slot, that's absolute crap, because you've got travelling to and from the venue, you've got setting up, you've got sound checking, you've got rehearsing, you've got all that sort of thing. The man hours that go into a half hour gig isn't... And then people say, oh, you only work half an hour. That can't be worth any money. And then that's where a promoter should say to the venue, if you want live music, we're going to have to pay for it. I mean, you go into a venue, the bar staff are being paid, the cleaner next morning's being paid, and all that sort of thing. So why the fuck don't the musicians get paid? And they're the ones that are keeping the customers in buying drinks, so they should be getting paid for that. People get asked... I mean, I do stuff, I mean, like random sessions, I don't earn from that. I always buy a drink or two for the performer, but I always make it clear to them that I'm not earning from it. It is just a fun thing. If it was in front of a paid audience, I'd pay people to do it, but this is just a thing that people do out of enjoyment, and it is a good social thing and a good enjoyment thing. If I do the podcast as well, and I put this out, and I do an audio version of the random sessions as well, like a compilation. I got asked a while ago by a business if I'd do a podcast for them, and I said, oh yeah, email me some details about frequency of the podcast, how long you want the podcast to be, and pay. Oh no, we can't pay you. I said, well, why the hell not? You're a business. Yeah, but you put out a podcast for free. I do that for my own, you know, I do have a PayPal button on my website that, you know, I do that out of love of my discovery of new music, and I do random sessions for the same reason. And when people say we can't pay, that annoys me even more, because generally they can but won't. It's a strange business, but that's becoming part of... And a lot of people don't seem to want to say no to that either, which is the other side of the coin. You know, if people did rise up and say, if you want me to do this, whatever it is, if you want me to draw a picture for a Christmas card, or if you want me to record a jingle or anything, right, I want paid for it. And eventually you'd stamp that shit out, you know. People say, oh yeah, but I'll mention it on my Twitter, and oh, so what? I'm not going to feed my family doing that. I'm getting away. I don't do anything for free unless it's something I really believe in. I'll help people out, but I won't fall for that trick again where I always ask first. People have got to realised that if they're doing it long enough and doing it well enough, then they should earn from it. There's an old saying where a wedding band got told by the wedding party that £500 was too much for a wedding, and the manager of the band said, well, you ring up 5 plumbers and get them to turn up on a Saturday night and stay for 2 hours and see how much that costs. We'll do it for half of that, or 500 quid, whichever's cheaper. And it's like that, I won't mention their name, but a popular culture magazine in Nottingham, they held an open event at a pub in Hockley a few weeks ago, looking for writers, podcasters, video vloggers, that's a word I don't like, but vloggers, and it was all volunteers. It's like, well, that magazine's been going for 13 years. It wasn't always a monthly magazine. I can't remember the frequency of it before. I think it was 4 episodes a year, or editions a year, I'm not sure. But they went to monthly on the back of a huge Kickstarter campaign. They sell advertising. The magazine is free in shops and record shops and cafes and things. But after 13 years, there should be some payment for people, you know. And it's, you know, if like BBC said, oh, can you write me a 6-part sitcom that will go on TV after EastEnders, so you've got a footfall of however many million people watch EastEnders, and they might stay because it'll be on in between EastEnders and the news, so people might just sit there lazy waiting for the news to come on, and they'll watch your oh, brilliant, yeah, that must be, oh, but we can't pay you. You'd say, well, I'm not going to fucking do it then. I am really enjoying doing it and meeting new musicians and things like that, and I do want to get back into the habit of doing a semi-regular out and about one, where we used to sort of just rock up in a bar or a cafe and say, can this guy sing 2 songs, and we'll film it.